So welcome everybody. I appreciate you being here. This is our ideally our monthly, but it's been seemed like every other month, our call for consultants around the country. And this call actually, and this topic actually stemmed from David and Kevin, mainly because they're new and they're asked about the PGA show. So I thought I would combine it because PGA show just takes a few minutes, but there's a lot of other stuff we can talk about and the whole objective. So this is a meeting, not a webinar, which means you guys can jump in, but let's try not to talk over each other because at least my screen only shows me who's talking. So hopefully you can all see my PowerPoint. Can everyone see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Because I'm sharing that screen. Okay. So what is really the objective of working with suppliers? What's really the bottom line to all of this that we're going to talk about? And this is for me. Every one of you are different, but this is just for me. When I'm working with suppliers, obviously I want to maximize the income. As you all know or learned, you're going to make so much money consulting and event planning, and that's but you can only handle so many clients in a day or in a week or even in a month or even in a year. So where you take your income to the next level is add-on selling, merchandise, you get some prizes, even services. I think we can add a whole new level of income. And I remember Joe told this story last call that he was very, very full of himself and said, I'm not going to lower myself to selling merchandise. I'm a consultant and I'm an event planner. But we all know, John, he in his last few months, years, he was 80% merchandise because he was making a ton of money. So there's a good positive plus about being an all-around consultant and offering merchandise as well as services. The other thing is, ideally, I want to be a one-stop shop. I want to be the person that my client can go to for everything. They don't need to be making 30 phone calls for 30 different items. Why can't I be that one-stop shop? And then thirdly, the goal for, I think, all of us, ideally, and that's why you have the GTAA logo on your website, is to be considered the association, the funnel. You are the go-to person or organization in your area. Everyone should be thinking about you when they think about a golf tournament. I don't care if it's for a free planning guide. I don't care if it's for some advice. Ideally, it would be great if you guys were all doing local webinars, local seminars, local newsletters, because you want to be the center of the golf tournament industry. And you can do that with the GTAA logo, the association. That's why we picked the name, the Golf Tournament Association of America. And you could be the Golf Tournament Association of Maryland or the Golf Tournament Association of Georgia, wherever you might be. So ideally, you want to be the funnel of the industry. Everyone should know you, whether they use you or not. Ideally, everyone should go to you. And that includes the media. I mean, how great it would be if whenever they're doing a story about a golf tournament in your area, the media is calling you. So because you are the go-to person, you're the funnel of the industry. So that's my goals and objective when working with suppliers. It's not just to make a convenience, although that is great, but it's income, it's being the funnel, and it's being a one-stop shop. So David and Kevin, I want to thank you because you're the guys who kind of instigated this call on this topic. I've been meaning to do it, but this kind of pushed me to making it happen, and that is the PGA show. Now, some of you are going. I know for sure Dave and Kevin and Scott are going, and I'm going, but I know, Angela, you're on the other side of the world, so it's going to be hard for you. John Parker, he goes to another show during that time. Marcus, you're right there. No reason you shouldn't be there. I think that's where we met. But everyone
that's not where we met, but that's where we've seen each other all the
time.
Yeah,
we met face to face. I remember that. But so bottom line is this, gang, the PGA show, is very, very valuable. And if there's any way shape, or form you can get there, I would do it. Yes, it's expensive. Yes, you got an airline ticket. Yes, you have hotel, and yes, you have a rent-a-car, but I think it's worth it. It's been very valuable for me year after year. I've been probably to every show for the last 25 years. I've made it a point to go, and it always comes out beneficial for me. And so there's many reasons that I go, and I'll get into those. But let me just preface it by saying, if you can go, go. If you can't, I understand. But if you're going to go, register. It's free. You should be able to go at no charge, at least to get into the show. But let me also warn you that things are going to be different. In fact, they're already different. I can feel it. I can sense it, because I used to get an email every day with what's going on. I used to get an email updates all the time, and I've seen nothing. So I'm a little bit concerned with what this show is going to look like compared to the past. I looked on their website. They've got plenty of vendors, at least according to their website. I know a couple of our clients are going to be there for sure. But I don't know what's happening. In the past, they've asked me to do a seminar or two. They have not asked me to do a seminar. In the past, they've given us a free room to work with, to do whatever we want for 3 days. They have not confirmed that. So I'm a little bit concerned with what it's going to look like. But we're going to go based on the past. They didn't have it last year. They had it 2 years ago. But if you're going to go, how do you capitalize? What's the best way to work the show? Scott, you've been there. You know, it's been great for you. We've bumped into each other and met there. But mainly for Dave and Kevin, here's how we capitalize on this show. Number one, it's a 3-day show. It is, at least in the past, has been absolutely huge. Everybody who's anybody in the golf industry is at that show. I'm talking every merchandise, every golf club, every software, every new item. So at minimum, it's worth going just to see all the new stuff, all the old stuff, all the old companies offering new lines, new products. I mean, there was one year I went there and there was literally 350 companies that made a golf club. Now, obviously that's cut way back, but literally that's how big it was. So if you were to go and just try to see every booth and walk the whole show and make a complete show and see everything, you couldn't do it in 3 days. It was that big. I have a feeling it's going to be a lot smaller, so you'll be able to do that. But at the same time, there's a lot of the show that's not going to apply to you. So in the past, the show's broken up basically into 3 sections. There's one section that's all apparel. It's everything from shirts and hats and belts and shoes, and it's all the big names, and it takes a third of the show. But I haven't spent a lot of time there, mainly because I don't sell a lot of Nike shirts or, Antigua shirts or the big brand shirts, for example. I don't sell a lot of big brand belts or big brand shoes. So I didn't spend a whole lot of time in the merchandise section. I didn't feel it was a good use of my time. There's another third of the section that's mainly equipment, golf equipment, all the golf clubs, all the golf bags, all the big stuff, all the simulators, all the mowing machines, lawnmowers and golf carts. I didn't spend a lot of time there because, number one, I don't sell a lot of golf clubs or haven't in the past. So I didn't spend a whole lot of time at the ping booth, for example. I didn't spend a whole lot of time. Now it's fun because they all have little putting greens and it's cute to go. As a golfer, it's really fun. But as a consultant or an event planner, it's not worth that much time. There's a third of the show. Usually it's in the middle. And typically that's all the stuff that we will utilize. It's going to include trophies. It's going to include goodie bag items. It's going to include software programs, a lot of the stuff that you will utilize. So if the show is as big as it has been in the past, you're going to want to focus most of your time in that 1/3 of a section. If you get a chance, I don't even know if they have it on the website yet. I don't know if you've registered, but they haven't sent me. Usually they send you an app. and the app will give you a list of everybody and where they're at. They'll give you a layout of the show. At minimum, when you get there, they'll have a booklet, some magazines, with the layout of the show and where all the exhibitors are, and then they publish a new one for any changes. But that's a good list to look at, whether you get it in advance or whether you do it the first day you get there, to line up kind of who you want to see and kind of the area you want to spend a lot of time in. I would make a list of the items that you specifically are looking for, looking to promote, whether that's shirts, whether that's bags, whether that's, accessories. If you're looking for, any goodie bag items, maybe trophies, depending on what you're selling, I would definitely try to focus on those companies and get out to see them. You may want to line up appointments. I'm a little nervous about lining up appointments, mainly because it's crazy. It's go, go, go. It's bump here, meet this guy. I try not to spend too much time. Inevitably, someone's going to call me and say, let's meet at the show. And usually, unless I really, really, really need to meet with them, I'm going to say, call me that day. Call me that day. I'm walking the show. I'll meet you at, in row 500 or whatever the case may be. So I don't set up a lot of appointments, although there may be some companies you want to set up appointments with. It just depends on what you're looking for. But again, it's so hectic. You're just go, go, go. You're not going to want to spend a lot of time in appointments because that takes away from you walking the floor. The other thing is that you do not want to spend a lot of time at a booth. Remember what the goal of an exhibitor is. The goal of an exhibitor is to sell. Okay, so unless you're going to place an order right then and there, they don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking with you, and they're not going to remember you anyways, most likely, because they're going to be talking to thousands of people over 3 days. So your goal is to grab a card, grab a brochure, get an image in your mind, maybe take a picture on your phone, and so that you can really study it when you get back. Say hi, hand out your business card, say, hey, I'd love to sell your product in my area. Let's chat when the show's over. That's really it. You can't spend an hour at a booth just because there's too much to see, too much to do. So don't try to keep your appointments short, sweet, and to the point. Take a lot of business cards. They do have scanners, which most people are going towards. I still like business cards. It's easier for whatever reason. Maybe the scanners aren't working or whatever, but I always take business cards, hand them out. Don't try to sell yourself to an exhibitor. They're there to sell you. You spend too much time trying to sell yourself, then that you're going to lose them. I'm not saying everybody, but for the most part, they are there to sell you. So tell them you're interested. Tell them you'd like to catch up when you get back, get an impression, and then move on. Grab a lot of business cards, grab a lot of brochures, and like I said, take a picture. The goal for this event is to make contacts. Make contacts and learn about the industry. Your eyes are going to be just wide open when you learn all the new stuff, whether it's software, whether it's registration programs, whether it's stuff for golf courses, because the goal is for you to be all rounded, for you to be in the know, to know everything, to understand every product. So if someone asks you, hey, what about Rosato's belts? You know what that is. You don't sound like a dummy. So at least be familiar with everything that's going on out there. And so that's the goal. Get familiar with the industry, learn, learn, learn. Keep something in mind. A lot of the big companies have parties. So keep your ears open. You may want to run over to some of the bigger companies because they're going to have a party somewhere, whether it's at a restaurant, whether it's at a hotel. But that night, every night there's going to be 3 or 4 parties going on. And if you want some free food and you want some free drinks, definitely keep your ears and eyes open for parties, because they'll definitely invite you to those if you stop by their booth. So definitely, these are some of the things to be thinking about at the PGA show. And oh my goodness, I missed the whole slide, didn't I? Forgot about that. Sorry, guys. There's the whole slide right there. Take a picture. I'll send you the PowerPoint. That's the one thing about doing these things, is I get ahead of myself and forget the slide. So those are the things to remember when doing the PGA show. here's the thing. If depending on who's going, let me know. No matter what, we're going to get together. Ideally, we could grab dinner. If there's one night there's not a party, or there's maybe a half a dozen of us, then we'll go grab dinner somewhere. That's at minimum. Keep me posted on your schedule, and we'll schedule that when I find out who else is going.
Bill,
All right.
quick question
Yes.
for you.
Absolutely.
On the website, as far as registering, it sounds like we needed to have some kind of introduction or a sponsor or something like that to be able to register, because it's not open to the public.
Okay.
No, you won't need that. They'll ask you for credentials, and you just basically you'll end up showing an invoice of where you've paid product for the golf. But right now they're doing just a pre-registration. The actual registration isn't even open yet.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And when you do go to register, they're going to, if you say, are you affiliated with an association? They have, after me bugging them for years, have a thing called an event planner. And they also have now the GTAA and the NGSA. So, just plug that button. If they say, what's your member number? Just put in 123. They don't care. And if you have any problems signing up, let me know, and we can, we'll get you signed up. But it's free. It should be no problem. But Scott's right. All I've done is pre-register, and I haven't seen anything. So it's a little bit
Nothing.
weird. Yeah.
I even emailed them and they responded to me. We'll get back to you shortly.
Yeah.
It's definitely a different year for it.
Right. All right. So let's ask the next question. Where do we find suppliers? All over the place. So obviously, we have our preferred vendors, which we encourage you to use, but not mandatory. We have a tab on our page called preferred vendors. We have a whole list of all types of things, everything you would need. Some are good, some are maybe old, but at the same time, there's a source for you. Right now, the internet is magic. Just do a search. What are you looking for? Shirts, hats, balls, whatever. There's a ton of those. If you have any questions about those, let me know. That's why the PGA Show is so great. It's because there are pretty much everyone's there. The brand names, the non-brand names, which we're going to get into, will not be there, and we need to be aware of those too. Referrals, obviously, as you get more involved, you're going to hear things, hear names, hear people, hear different stuff. So write those down, follow up. Your job is to build a database. I would put it in categories. I like to have an A, B, and C supplier in every category. An A shirt, meaning high end, a middle of the line shirt, and then a no-brainer cheapy shirt. And same with hats, same with balls, same with gloves, whatever it is, have an A, B, and C. But your job is to have a master database of everyone. Who's the contact? What's their website? What's their phone number? What's their pricing? That's an ongoing database that you have, so that you have the access to all the suppliers at your fingertips anytime, all the time. Obviously you're going to be working with manufacturers. They're going to be finding you. They're going to be finding you on our website. They're going to be finding you by doing internet searches. So I encourage you to work directly with the manufacturers if you can, in a lot of cases. And we're going to talk about why in a second. There's other people that you can work with, which also talk about the pros and cons there. But if you can, you want to work with the manufacturer. Why is that? Well, number one, and we're going to talk about how do you get the best prices. Everyone's looking for reps. Every brand, every product, every service is looking for a rep in your area. Okay, most likely. Now, not the Nike, Callaway, Ping, all the big names, they have their in-house reps. But every manufacturer, every supplier is looking for reps for the most part all the time. And I like to encourage you to consider being a rep, not for everybody, but here's some benefits of being a rep. Number one, they're going to work closely with you and give you the rock bottom prices if they're a manufacturer. Number two, they're going to keep you abreast of closeouts and last year's models and specials and overruns and that kind of thing. Three, they're going to send you leads. If you're a rep in their area, they're going to send you leads. They're going to say, hey, I got a tournament, or I got this business that's in your area that I don't have time to follow up on. They would much rather you follow up. Yes, they're going to make more money if they go direct, but they'd rather not have all that work that's involved and work with you directly. So,
Phil,
yes,
I'm sorry, I have a
of
question.
course,
Do
absolutely.
you get it wholesale? Do you have a wholesale license? Retail license?
Do I
They sell it?
personally?
Yeah, do they sell it to you wholesale?
Yes, 99 times out of 100, they will sell it to you wholesale or a little above cost. Again, everybody's different. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, but everybody's different. And but in most cases, you're going to get a better price, and you're going to get a better price if you work with them longer, if you order more. You can't just go to a manufacturer and say, hey, listen, I want the rock bottom price, and I'm going to sell 1 million next year. Most likely they're not going to believe you because everyone says that. So you have to prove yourself as being a rep. You have to show that relationship. You have to show and pay attention and be involved in their Zoom calls. There are some products that are worth it and some products that are not. You're going to get a ton. I don't know if you've seen, gang, but on our website, we have a tab called the NGSA. That's the National Golf Sales Rep Association. If you click on that tab, you're going to see a whole list of companies that are looking for reps. And there's some cool stuff out there. They need reps bad. And there's some not so cool stuff. So, but I encourage you to look through that page and click on some of those folks, because if it's a great product, and they want you to sell at the golf courses, it may give you another reason to golf on a golf course or get your foot in the door with a golf course, which opens up Pandora's box, which we've talked about in the past. And that's partnering with golf courses and getting their tournament business.
Hey, Phil,
Yes, John.
may I respond to Angela? Make a
Sure.
suggestion.
Yeah,
Um,
of course.
Once you become a vendor or you find a vendor and you become a customer, they're always going to ask you for your license. And what that means, not a big deal. You need to get a license in your state, which in my case, I'm in Georgia, cost me $50 a year.
Yeah, I have my license. I do have that.
Yeah, well, for the other people in the room, if you're going to sell product, you're going to need that license.
Yeah.
It's very helpful. And you can also apply for terms typically if you have a license where you might get 30-day terms. So every company will have on their website, it'll have how you can apply for terms. But first of all, you have to be a rep for them, which sometimes isn't that hard.
John, clarify me or us, what are the benefits of having a license? And let me just tell you why. I have never been involved in selling a lot of merchandise, but when I have, I didn't need a license. I got wholesale pricing, and it was a one-off order. I was never their rep. I would never. But if you're going to do it on a regular basis, obviously it's a smart thing to have. But what else besides terms, credibility? What else does that license benefit offer you?
Well, it gets you in the door. For a lot of suppliers, they give you a list, and they want your license. They're actually going to ask to see your website and things like that. The most important thing is the license. I got tripped up. I've been doing this for 15 years in this particular county, and when the SBA loans came out 2 years ago, I applied for one for working capital for my company, and they asked me for my Cobb County license, and I didn't have a Cobb County license. I've never had a Cobb County license. I had to go to Cobb County and back pay my licenses for 3 years. It cost me $900, but it was worth it because I got the SBA loan, which has been quite helpful. So I got I had to get a county license just for that. I never even knew I needed a county license, but to get a state license, that tells your company that you're tax exempt. Because if you don't have a state license, they're going to charge taxes.
Okay, good. All right. So it gives you credibility. It may give you terms. It helps you with SBA loans, it avoids paying taxes. Okay, a lot of good benefits. So if you're going to be serious about selling product on a big scale, then obviously you definitely want to get that, especially if it's $50-100 a year. It's no brainer.
It's referred to as a vendor's license. What?
It's a
specific-
whole, sometimes they call it a retail license or a
Retail
wholesale
certificate.
license.
Yeah,
Yeah,
retail certificate.
You have to get a
Retail
federal
certificate.
EIN. You have to get a federal EIN number too.
mm-hmm.
Your federal, it's, I don't think it's expensive. It may not, there may not be any charge for it at all, but they're gonna ask your EIN, which is like a 6-digit number that you get from the federal
Employee
government.
identification number. Then they're gonna also, every state is different, but it's also, they're looking for, I just got mine and it took forever because I had to back pay taxes. And they're gonna look at your business and see, do you sell retail? Are you doing this? Is this a legit reason you need to be doing this? So if you have a bookkeeper, it's always good to let them know that you're doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a valuable lesson. Okay, so we're talking
Valuable
about
lesson.
how to get the best prices. Okay, so obviously one way is to become a rep. The other way is to build the relationship. If you come to them once a year, you're probably not going to get as good of a deal. But if you're working with them on a regular basis and communicating and let them know that you're promoting their product, then you're probably going to get some better prices. Keep an eye out on closeouts or last year's or overruns. You know, a lot of times your suppliers will have a bunch of stuff and they want to get rid of it. And it's a great way to get some screaming deals. And then obviously you want to sell more. The more you sell, the better the relationship you're going to have, and the more they're going to want to work with you. And then order early. If you're ordering last minute, as we all have learned the hard way, prices you get can be more expensive because everything's rushed. If you want to get really crazy, you want to maybe consider buying in bulk. I remember Steve Bick. I don't know, John, if you remember Steve Bick,
Of course.
but he was out of California. I admired that guy because he would go to a manufacturer who was getting rid of plaques, for example, and he'd buy 1,000 of them. For $1 a piece or $2 a piece and put them in his warehouse, and then he'd sell them and he'd push them for plaques for events. He may have to engrave them or whatever, but he bought the actual plaque for $1, $2 because he bought either closeouts or bought them in bulk, and then kept them in the warehouse, sold them like that. You can do that with shirts and come across bags. If you come across some bags at $5 a bag, you buy them thousands of them and put them in your warehouse or your garage or whatever. And then here's another crazy idea. I don't have much experience, but buying from China. Alibaba is a way that you can buy. You can't buy 1 or 2, but you can buy 1,000 or 500 or 5,000 and get the rock bottom prices. And if you build a relationship, there's actually some really good, dependable companies out of China that you can work with. And if you're going to get after a particular product in a serious way, you may want to look at Alibaba, which is kind of like the middle company between China and the United States. So that's how you get the best prices. Now, the big question always comes up for me, and everyone's different. How do you mark it up? How do you, sell the products, and then what do you mark it up? This always comes up, and it's a great question because there's no set rules. It's across the board. I can tell you there are many companies that are Keystone. They mark it up 100%. Golf shops are notorious. They'll buy it at, $10 and sell it for 20. They'll buy it at $50 and sell it for 100. And that works for, retail shops. But in our business, I think we need to be a little bit more competitive. I think if you're going to look at a generic rate, depending on what it is and how it is, the average markup is going to be 10 to 20%. But let me tell you how I do it. And it's really going to depend on my client. If I've got a client who's paying me $5,000 a month to do an outing, a major outing for them, most likely I'm just going to give them the stuff at cost, my cost. I'm not going to charge them any markups. But then on the flip side, and I know Steve Bick was really great at this. He would offer free consulting and then just mark up the product. He'd say, we're going to consult with you for free in your tournament, as long as you buy all your merchandise through me. And then you can mark it up 10, 20, 30%. And that's how you make your money. There may be a combination. Let's say they're paying you a little bit. Let's say they're paying you $1,000 or $2,000 a month, which is okay, but you're putting in a lot of time. You may want to say, hey, I got this great product I can get you, and you may want to mark it up a little bit just so you can make some additional fees. So it's really going to depend. And I think it really is the situation. You got to analyze situation. So for example, if I had a client last year, let's say they bought a golf shirt for $30, but I know that I could get that same golf shirt or a better one for 15. I'm just going to play it by ear. What do I need to do? Could he go out and find it somewhere else for 25? Well, then I'm going to offer it for 20. Can he not find a better deal than 30? Then maybe I'm going to offer it at 25. So it's really going to depend on the client. That's why the more questions you ask, the better. So that's kind of my philosophy. It's kind of across the board, but I play it by ear, whatever I got to do to get the business. I'd rather me be the one-stop shop than somebody else. Has anybody got any feedback on markup?
I kind of do it the same way. And a lot of times like you said, if I'm doing a management contract, and they'll obviously get a deal on the product that we provide.
Right.
But if I'm not, I just go in on the, we can be your single source provider. And the more you buy from me, the more you can save.
Right.
When you go to A company or B company, they're going to have their markup that they're going to charge you, but I don't have to. I can sell it for whatever I want. So the more you buy from me, I have the ability to reduce the fees there so that we are that single source provider.
Yeah, makes sense.
But it's the same way. I mean, it just depends on what you're looking to do. I mean, I've been known to sell a product at cost because I just wanted to get into the event and felt like that would help me. So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of different ways to look at how you're going to structure what your markups are.
And there's a lot of things that you may want to offer at cost, like golf balls. I mean, there's a very little margin with golf balls. And so you may just want to give them at cost just to be their supplier so you can get the other stuff.
Phil, I have a comment on that.
Yeah.
If you're in the business of selling golf tournament apparel and things like that, you're going to need to make a margin. If that's what I do, I'm going to have to make a certain margin. So it's not about selling; it's about buying. So I have 2,500 different suppliers. Probably 500 of them are in the golf business, and I'll look for the right deal. And if I need a price, I'll go overseas. So I have a connection in Vietnam that's where a lot of the apparel's made now, the hats and shirts and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a little bit safer than China, mainly because of the delivery and the supply chain. But I have an intermediary in Raleigh, North Carolina, that I'll place the order with them. They actually own the company in Vietnam, so they'll tell me how many days it's going to take.
And that's a good group. I know who you're talking about. That's where I get my hats from too.
Yeah. So that's, I've sold shirts for $20 and made 50% margin on it. And I sold caps for $9.99 embroidered in 3 places where I paid $3.50 for them. So it's not all about the selling price; it's about buying.
Yeah, right.
Question for you. What about the quality of what you're getting? How do you look on these websites and there's 5,000 hats, there's 10,000 shirts. How do you dial into what you feel is a good product that is, or have you gotten things that you're like, this is garbage?
David, in my mind, I don't buy from websites. That's kind of dangerous. I buy from, if you go to the PGA Show and you establish some relationships there, you buy from them. I only buy from, I'll ask for a sample if it's a new vendor, but at this point I don't need to do that anymore because I have so many hat vendors. But and the supply is really, I had a customer that wanted to buy 100, a real popular hat, not in golf, it's a Richardson trucker hat. Everybody wants them. And I could have an order for 10,000 of them. I couldn't fill it because they're not there. They're sitting in a ship, out in the Pacific someplace, but supply is really critical. But
Right.
to answer your question, I wouldn't just go on a website and buy from the website.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that here in a minute, Dave. But good
Okay.
point. All right, so in my mind, gang, there's really two areas or two things that you can sell. You can sell a tangible and you can sell a non-tangible. So what's the difference? Tangible is something you hold on to, and non-tangible is something you don't hold on to. So, but what I'm seeing is a lot of folks are selling tangibles because it's easier, and they just avoid the non-tangibles. So the question is, how do we best sell it and invoice it, and what's the best process? Here's the way I like to do it, but this is not the only way. I like to be the one-stop shop. I want to say everything is going to cost, all included, this much money, write me a check and I'll pay all the vendors. This way I control the money, I control the vendors, and it's a streamlined little deal. Now, the risk with that is that the client doesn't pay you. You order the product, it's in your name, and they don't pay you on time. So you want to make sure, and I love being able to get 30 days, but I don't like working on 30 days. I like doing everything in advance. I want to get the money in advance. I want to pay the supplier in advance, or when I get the product, right? Maybe 50% up front and then 50% when I get it. But I don't want 30 days necessarily, because then everyone gets slack, and then you got to follow up, and then you got to collect it. So my deal is everything up front. Most importantly, your client's got to pay you up front. So the only risk you take is them not paying you. So you take each step very carefully. When you order the product, your name's on it. So you got to make sure that your client's credible. They at least give you a credit card, or they've paid for the whole thing in advance. But that's the way I like to do it. Another way not to avoid that risk is they simply pay you your consulting fee, and then they pay the manufacturer directly. This way their name's on it, and then they pay you, the manufacturer ends up paying you a commission on the back end. The downside with that is that the supplier, sometimes they take their 30, 60, 90 days to pay you. So now they have your money in their pocket. So I'm not excited about that. That's why I like to control it. But there's a risk reward on either way. But depending on your clients, depending on how the whole, your proposal works, ideally, I like to get the money for everything and pay everything out of our bank account. But again, you take that risk. So in my contracts, typically I say, you are responsible for every service and every product, in addition to my, consulting fee. So the merchandise is a little bit more clear, and we're talking shirts and balls and hats and gloves and all that kind of stuff, raffle items and auction items. Regarding services, the intangibles, a little tougher. Again, not as much of a markup on hole-in-one insurance, website registration, golf pros, can and gun, all the intangibles. But again, I like to do the same thing. I like to put it all in my package, and then get them to pay that. But again, worst case scenario, you turn it over to the hole-in-one insurance company, you let them bill it, you let them get paid directly, and then hopefully you get a commission on the back end. Same situation. But sometimes we focus on the merchandise, the tangibles, and we forget about the non-tangibles. So don't forget about those, because there's a lot of money to be made with non-tangibles. All right. So now the question is, guys, how do we take this to the next level? How do we make big money? It's great to sell 120 shirts. It's great to sell 100 gloves. All that's great, and you'll make a few bucks. But if you want to take merchandise to a whole new level and make big money, this is how you do it. One, for every tournament that you do, find out who the sponsors are and who the contact is. Prime example, I did a golf tournament for a company called iGate. We did a CEO Cup, and it was a great tournament. They paid for everything. But then after the event, iGate wanted another 2,000 shirts. They loved the shirts that we used, and they wanted 2,000 shirts for their employees. You can imagine, they loved them so much, they didn't even ask the price. Well, they did, but it wasn't, they didn't try to knock me down, try to get a deal. So it was full boat. And you can imagine how much I made on 2,000 high-end quality golf shirts. So the sponsors are the key. So don't just be satisfied with an order of 100 shirts or 120 shirts, 120 hats. Find out who the sponsors are and follow up and say if they need more for their employees, for their customers to hand out. Their logo's already done, it's already digitized, it's a natural. So that's how you launch it into the big money. The other way you get big money is you promote merchandise. You heard me preaching. I think you all should be sending out a monthly newsletter to everyone in your database. And that monthly newsletter is not just going to talk about tournament business and tournament news and tournament ideas, but why not promote an item? Again, you never know who's going to see it. Maybe a bank or a car dealer sees a particular item that you're promoting, and you sell, thousands of them. You also, plant the seed for your client to utilize that merchandise for their tournament next year. So if you're promoting stuff monthly, maybe a lost leader, maybe a catalog, you need to have this stuff on your website. Especially not everything, but have a half a dozen to a dozen items on your website. You're always selling shirts at whatever the price is. You always got golf hats because people are going to find you that way too. So have a merchandise page on your website. But if you want to make big money on merchandise, you've got to make it a focus. You've got to focus on that. And it's not a bad route to go. I mean, I love the consulting and the event part of it being my primary, but many people, John Parker is a prime example. He does still some consulting, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his story in a second, but he's focused on merchandise and making a ton of money. One of my heroes, and I don't know if you remember John Cox, but he was one of our very first GTA consultants. We're talking 20 years ago, and out of Boston. And I love this guy because he had literally 900 clients. And what he would do is, probably 850 of them, he would never even talk to on the phone. They would just reorder every year, all-in-one insurance, or reorder every year, shirts, or reorder. So he was constantly communicating with them on a monthly basis. He would personally handle, 30, 40, 50 clients a year, and help them with their tournament. But the other just would order off the internet or off their website or via an email. That's why it's important for you to connect with your client base on a monthly basis so that they can be reminded of what you have and what you offer. So that's how you take it to the next level. And I wanted to introduce John, because John is not only a great golf tournament consultant and been doing this a long time, he's also a merchandise king, which he's going to tell you about. But he's also been on our advisory board since many years. A good friend of mine. I consider him my brother. So John, tell us a little bit about you, what you do, and maybe how you could save us some time, because maybe I'm thinking I don't got time to build all these relationships. I don't got time to be bugging. I'm too busy working with clients. I'm too busy doing events. I don't have all this time. So John, tell us what you do and how you might be able to help us.
First of all, hello, everybody. Nice to meet you. Maybe I can put myself in your shoes 15 years ago when, I don't know when you all started, but, my very first experience was going to the PGA Show. And what my goal was to do is to go around, find a supplier who I wanted, to offer their merchandise and make a deal with them. And you can imagine how long that took. I mean, in 3 days, I might have hooked up with 3 suppliers. And so that really didn't work. And I was really focusing more on consulting and so forth. But what I found was that I was buying all this merchandise as a consultant from somebody else. And I just thought, why not just get my ASI license, which is where you get all your vendors and so forth, and then actually buy things for myself. That was kind of, and I got so involved in the merchandise business that I fell in love with it. And some of the sponsors from the golf tournaments and so forth would ask me, Maybe you could supply things for my company. And that's kind of how that started. But I want to go back to Dave's question, because that's a kind of a scary feeling when your customer wants to buy a hat for every 144 hats and you don't know where to go, and you go to the internet. They can go to the internet, so you need to offer something better than what they can do. And as Phil said, we have a whole list of GTAA suppliers, certified suppliers, and those people you can trust. So not necessarily me. I mean, you can trust me, but you can trust those people, because Phil wouldn't bring them in as a supplier if he didn't trust them. So, and I want to tell the Joe Gill story too. So Joe he's one of my good friends too, and he and I've worked together for 15 years. He just retired after what, Phil, 20 or 25 years, and he did the big events. And so what I did after a few years in this business, Joe's buying things from me, and we're at the PGA Show, and I said, Joe, that's silly. Why don't I introduce you to my suppliers, and you can be set up with those suppliers and just buy it directly from them? Because I felt a little guilty. So we did, and one particular one is a company called Sterling Cut Glass. And if you go to the show, you're looking for awards and trophies, crystal and things like that, make sure you go to Sterling Cut Glass, because they've got the best products at the best prices. So Joe started a little side company for products, and he didn't even tell me about that, but he came back to me about 2 or 3 years ago, and he has 3 major tournaments. He does more than that, but he has 3 huge tournaments. One makes a couple $1 million a year, and he does everything for them. He said, I want you to do all the awards and some of the golf towels and some of the things that he was offering. And I said, why do you want me to do that, Joe? You already have you have your own little side company and so forth. He said, it's such a hassle, and I just would rather you do it. And then, we shared in some of the profits, which is kind of nice, but it took that off his plate. He just didn't have time for it. So any questions for me? I just open questions that I can answer about.
Yeah, I have another follow-up question to it. Do you find certain products that move better with certain demographics? There's a lot of Instagram golf companies, and there are louder shirts and logos and things like that would fall flat on maybe an older crowd, or anything to steer away from in that realm.
Yeah, I don't even have an Instagram account. I don't because I am the older guy. But it's, as you know, it's all about relationships. So you form a relationship when you're doing a golf tournament for somebody. I've got a tournament here in Atlanta that I've done for 12 years straight, and I just have a relationship with them. They trust me. Whoops, lost you for a second. There you go. They trust me, so they might say, this is a corporate tournament. We've got $30 for our package. Suggest a package for us, and that's the way we work. So, and I just work on relationships. I don't work on Instagram or Facebook or anything like that, because I'm old fashioned. But it works. It works.
But I'll answer that question generically, Dave, and that is, golfers, most golfers don't care about a Nike shirt or a high-end golf shirt. They want a quality golf shirt with a logo. They don't care what brand it is. That's what I found. So I can find a quality golf shirt, that nice texture without a brand name, for 12 bucks, 15 bucks. So, I don't need to spend 25, 35, 40 bucks for a golf shirt. And I think most golfers that play in tournaments are just happy to get something. Now, I will say this, I do not like crummy golf hats. I got 30 crummy golf hats that I never wear. So I'll spend more money on a nice golf hat. I hate those little crinkled ones. That you've seen the ones, Golf Lucky. Have you seen those hats? I mean, they're a lot more expensive, but I love them because they're good quality hats. But I think, so when it comes to a shirt in a golf tournament, as long as it feels good and it's not going to shrink in the dryer, we're good. We don't need a brand name. As far as hats go, you want something with structure. You want a good quality hat. With towels, I don't want a little towel that's going to be like a paper towel. I want a decent towel. Golf balls, I'm not going to use Pinnacles, and again, depending on the golfer. Some golfers who don't golf, they don't care what kind of golf balls they use. But the better golfers, the golfers who are playing more often, they want Titleist, they want Callaways, they want some name brand golf balls. They don't want the Noodle or the Pinnacles, right? So
Yeah, I guess part of the question was based on finding the up and coming, right? We're here in Baltimore, the land of Under Armour. Kevin Plank is building a whole city next to Baltimore on his own dime. So getting those relationships that you guys are talking about early on to some of these vendors that, maybe it's at the PGA or whatever, you make a call that they're trying to cut their teeth as well. There's a possibility of building that relationship from the get-go and, getting in on maybe a ground level of development.
right.
I guess as part of my background in the music industry, one of the best parts was finding unknown artists and making them, worldwide known.
Right.
So,
Well, that's a great point. And I'll bring up my situation. I'm about a half a mile from Antigua. Okay. Antigua is huge and they're a big brand and they're a major presence in the industry. But they have two things that I take advantage of. They have an outlet store that's huge, and they have tons of overruns and good quality golf shirts for $5. So if I need an extra 40 bucks for a quick little outing, $5, they're quality. But they also have last year's models. So whenever I work with the rep, I say, let me see last year's catalog, because in most cases it's going to be half the price. And they have usually, more of those than they do in the outlet store, but they are too limited. The only downside with that is if you need 280 of a particular color, a particular size, whatever, you're not going to get that price. So yeah, I would say go knock on their door and build that relationship and see what you can put together.
thank you.
By the way, on Antigua, that's
Yeah.
a really good golf shirt at a really low price.
Yeah.
Retail.
Right.
Well, I mean, if you buy it wholesale, it's you can probably do an Antigua with a logo on it for 25 bucks and make money.
Right.
But you need the line. You might start, just call them on the phone. Ask for customer service.
Yeah.
That's the way to go.
And bottom line,
What's a must-have? I'm sorry. What's a must-have in a gift bag? You did talk about these shirts for $25. If the budget's $25 for the whole gift bag, like what do you cut? What is a must-have, if anything?
well, I don't know if there's a must-have, but I will tell you the most popular in all the research that we've done and all the surveys, and it's real simple: 5 items: shirt, hat, towel, balls, and a glove. Those are the most popular. Why? I hear people say, well, especially people who don't sell shirts say, well, they, shirts are, they have too many shirts. Well, I can't have too many golf shirts. I can't have too many hats because, we love them. If you're a serious golfer, so those are the most popular, but it also boils down to maybe who's the sponsor. For example, I had this bank sponsor and they had a bunch of these little silver clocks that you put on the desk. And those are really cool. Well, that's impressive. A little silver clock that you put on your desk. So that was a powerful little item. I don't think there's a must-have, but the must-have is making an impression, getting them excited to get that goodie bag or to get whatever it does to make that impact. That's the secret.
Gotcha.
Hey, Phil, can I make
Yeah.
one more suggestion too that you just brought up? This is pretty important. It doesn't even have to be a golf item. You know, it really doesn't. Phil brought that up. A lot of times, just other type items are very, very popular as long as it has your sponsor's logo on it. We've done barbecue sets for a higher end golf tournament, but it really doesn't have to be golf necessarily. Just keep that in mind. It could be another type item.
But I like that, John. My philosophy is this, gang. I want when a golfer gets to the golf course and gets his or her goodie bag or tee package, they say, wow, I've got my money's worth right here. The golf and the food is a bonus. So I want to create value in that goodie bag. So what I say is the wow factor. It's something that's really impressive in that goodie bag. And that's what you want when a golfer gets to registration.
Gotcha.
All right, gang, thank you so much for your time. That's 1 hour. Hopefully it was helpful. John, good to see you. You're looking great, buddy. Hopefully we'll see you all in Orlando. If not, we'll see you. We'll do another call next month. If you got any questions, concerns, call me. Love to hear from you. And that's it. So hit them straight. Have a great weekend.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
All right,
Thank you.
gang.